the heart of a bustling city, amidst the noise and chaos of daily life, there was a man who felt trapped in his own soul. His name was Amir, a man of faith but one who had lost his way. His heart had been broken by the harshness of life, and his mind was clouded with doubt. Every day was a battle against his own emotions, his own thoughts, and the overwhelming sense of hopelessness that clung to him like a shadow. Amir had once been a devoted man, living a life of prayer, charity, and kindness. But in the years leading up to this moment, he had become lost. His faith seemed distant, a memory of time when he had felt closer to Allah Almighty. His prayers had become mechanical, his connection to the divine a mere formality. It wasn't an external event or a grand gesture from anyone around him that woke him from his slumber. It was an inner calling, a whisper in his heart that urged him to return to the essence of his faith. Amir had lost his way, but he had not lost his ability to feel the power of repentance, the calling to return to the divine, the yearning to reconnect with Allah Almighty. In a moment of sheer despair, Amir dropped to his knees, placing his forehead on the ground in the act of Sajdah. The very act that once felt so natural now felt like a lifeline. As his face touched the earth, he cried out to Allah Almighty, asking for forgiveness, asking for guidance, and most of all, asking for the strength to carry on. This single Sajdah, this single prayer, would be the beginning of a transformation that would change his life forever. The act of Sajdah, or prostration, is one of the most intimate acts of worship in Islam. It is a moment where the believer places his or her face to the ground, the most humble position possible, as a sign of submission to Allah Almighty. It is the moment when one surrenders everything, pride, ego, and worldly distractions, to seek closeness to the Creator. In this moment of Sajdah, Amir was not just physically bowing to the ground. He was emotionally, mentally, and spiritually surrendering to Allah Almighty, admitting his weaknesses, his mistakes, and his desperate need for mercy. As he stayed in that position, something extraordinary happened. The heaviness that had plagued his heart for so long began to lift. It was as though the very act of surrendering had opened a floodgate within him. He began to feel peace, something he hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of connection to Allah Almighty. This is the power of Sajdah, the ability to strip away the layers of pride and arrogance, to return to a state of purity, and to connect with the divine in a way that transcends the material world. It is not just a physical act. It is an invitation to a deeper, more meaningful relationship with Allah Almighty. In the silence of his prayer, Amir felt an overwhelming sense of love and forgiveness. It was as though the heavens themselves had opened to him, allowing him to feel the mercy of Allah Almighty pouring into his heart. Amir's life began to change in ways that defied explanation. It wasn't as if the world around him suddenly became easier or that his struggles disappeared. No, the trials of life continued to test him. But this time, something was different. The weight of despair that had once held him down began to lift. The doubts that had clouded his mind started to fade. It was as if he had been given a new lens through which to view the world. A lens that was focused not on the problems, but on the solutions. Not on the difficulties, but on the opportunities for growth. He began to experience moments of clarity, moments when he felt that his prayers were being answered. Every time he felt weak, every time he felt lost, he would turn to Allah Almighty in Sajdah, and with each prayer, the guidance he sought would come. One evening, as Amir sat in a quiet park, lost in thought, he saw an elderly man walking slowly, his cane tapping gently against the pavement. The man stopped beside him and looked at Amir with kind eyes. "You look troubled, my son," the elderly man said. "Do you seek peace?" Amir nodded, feeling the truth of the man's words in his heart. "I have a secret to share with you," the man continued. "In times of trial, when the world seems too heavy to bear, there is one thing that will always bring peace, and that is the power of prayer, the power of turning to Allah Almighty with sincerity and humility." The man's words struck Amir deeply. It was as if the universe had conspired to send him this message at the exact moment he needed to hear it. "Always remember," the elderly man said, "it is in the moments of Sajdah, in the moments of surrender, that the divine mercy flows the strongest. Trust in your prayers, for they will never go unanswered." From that day forward, Amir's life took on a new direction. He began to live with purpose, guided by the teachings of Islam and the strength of his faith. His connection to Allah Almighty became his source of strength, and he began to see the world through a new lens, one filled with hope, love, and gratitude. Amir also began to realize that the power of prayer was not limited to the moments of Sajdah alone. Dua, the supplication to Allah Almighty, was another powerful tool in his journey. Dua was not just asking for things. It was a way of expressing vulnerability, a way of reaching out to Allah Almighty in times of need and in times of gratitude. Amir began to incorporate dua into his daily routine, asking for guidance, wisdom, and patience in the face of the trials he encountered. He would recite his duas silently, knowing that even though he could not see Allah Almighty, he was always listening. And with every prayer, with every supplication, Amir's life continued to change. The once lost man now found himself on a path of peace, understanding, and fulfillment. His heart, once weighed down by despair, was now light and full of hope. Amir's transformation didn't just end with him. As his faith grew stronger, so did his compassion for others. He began to spread the message of the power of prayer, of the importance of connecting with Allah Almighty in times of trial. He shared his story with friends, family, and even strangers, encouraging them to find strength in their faith. His journey became a beacon of hope for others who were struggling, and soon, Amir found himself surrounded by a community of individuals who, like him, had discovered the life-changing power of prayer. Together, they supported one another, lifted each other up in times of need, and prayed together, strengthening their bond with Allah Almighty and with each other. Amir's life was a testimony to the power of prayer, to the power of turning to Allah Almighty in times of need. He had been saved by a single sajdah, and now his story was inspiring others to do the same. The ripple effect of his transformation spread far and wide, touching lives and inspiring countless others to seek the mercy of Allah Almighty. As Amir's life continued to transform, one thing became clear. The trials that once seemed insurmountable were now viewed through a different lens. While life did not suddenly become easy, Amir began to understand that the true test of faith was not in the absence of hardship, but in how one responded to it. He realized that Allah Almighty had not promised a life free of trials, but a life where He would be with us through them. With each challenge, Amir turned to the power of dua, understanding that patience, sabr, was not passive resignation, but active perseverance with faith. He would often reflect on the words of Imam Ali, alayhi salam, who had said, "Patience is the key to relief, and with hardship comes ease." These words resonated deeply within him. He found that his trials became less burdensome, not because they disappeared, but because he faced them with a sense of peace and trust in Allah Almighty's plan. It was during these moments of trial that Amir's connection to Allah Almighty grew even stronger. He would spend hours in prayer, asking Allah Almighty for the strength to endure, for wisdom to navigate his challenges, and for the ability to remain steadfast. The more he prayed, the more he felt his heart soften, his patience deepen, and his relationship with Allah Almighty strengthen. His journey was no longer just about asking for help. It was about building a relationship with the Creator, one prayer at a time. His sajdah became his refuge. His moments of dua became his lifeline. And in the depths of his trials, he discovered the beauty of patience. As Amir continued his journey of faith, something extraordinary began to unfold. The changes in his life were not just internal, they were also external. Miracles, big and small, began to appear, often in ways he could not have imagined. One day, as he walked down the street, lost in his thoughts, He overheard a conversation between two people who were struggling with a difficult situation. One was desperately trying to find a job, while the other was in financial distress. Amir, remembering the power of prayer, approached them and offered a simple piece of advice. Turn to Allah Almighty with sincerity, ask for what you need, and trust that He will provide. Make dua with a heart full of faith, and know that your prayers will not go unanswered. He didn't offer them a quick fix or material solutions. Instead, he encouraged them to rely on their faith, to make dua, and to believe that Allah Almighty was listening to them. The next week, the man who had been seeking a job received an unexpected offer, and the woman who had been struggling financially found a source of support. Both individuals returned to Amir, their faces filled with gratitude, and shared the miracles that had happened in their lives. Amir's heart swelled with joy as he realized that the power of dua was not just about receiving help for oneself, but also about helping others find their way to Allah Almighty. It was a reminder that prayer had the ability to open doors, to change circumstances, and to bring about miracles in the most unexpected ways. As Amir's faith continued to deepen, he also turned his attention to the revered figures of the Ahl-e-Bait, Ahl-e-Salam, the holy family of Prophet, peace be upon him. He understood that they were not just examples of piety and righteousness, but were also sources of divine guidance and intercession. Imam Ali, Ahl-e-Salam, was the first figure Amir turned to in his prayers. He asked for his intercession, seeking to draw closer to Allah Almighty through the noble character and example of the Ahl-e-Bait, Ahl-e-Salam. He recited the words of Imam Ali, Ahl-e-Salam. He who has not loved the Ahl-e-Bait, Ahl-e-Salam, has not known true love, for their love is the love of Allah Almighty. With the guidance of Imam Ali, Ahl-e-Salam, Amir found himself understanding his trials not as punishments, but as opportunities to grow closer to Allah Almighty. He began to see the beauty of the teachings of the Ahl-e-Bait, Ahl-e-Salam, and how their lives exemplified the power of prayer, patience, and faith in the face of adversity. Amir began to feel a deeper connection to the Ahl-e-Bait, Ahl-e-Salam, often turning to them in his prayers, asking them to intercede on his behalf. He believed, with all his heart, that their proximity to Allah Almighty made them the perfect mediators for his supplications. Through them, Amir sought strength, guidance, and protection, knowing that their example was a shining light leading him toward a closer relationship with Allah Almighty. With time, Amir's life continued to transform. His heart was filled with gratitude for everything he had, for the blessings that were hidden in his struggles, for the moments of peace that came with each prayer, and for the continuous guidance he received from Allah Almighty. He understood that the true key to unlocking the blessings of dua was gratitude. Imam Zain al-Abidin, Ahl-e-Salam, known for his deep supplications, had once said, "Gratitude is the key to Allah Almighty's mercy. Thank Him not only when you receive, but when you face trials, for those too are blessings." Amir took these words to heart. He began to thank Allah Almighty for his trials, for his moments of hardship, because he understood that they were part of a divine plan that was leading him to spiritual elevation. His gratitude became a daily practice, not just for what he had, but for the challenges that had helped shape him into the person he was becoming. His life had been transformed by the power of prayer, but more importantly, it had been transformed by his gratitude. He had learned that no matter the circumstances, the act of thankfulness was a powerful dua in itself. Amir's journey was not just about his own transformation. It was about helping others experience the power of dua as well. As his faith grew, he began to share his story with others, encouraging them to turn to Allah Almighty in times of trial and to make dua with sincerity. He would tell them, "The power of dua is not in the quantity of your words, but in the sincerity of your heart. Turn to Allah Almighty with a pure heart, and know that He is always there, listening, guiding, and answering." Amir's life became a living testimony to the power of prayer. Through his own struggles and triumphs, he had learned that dua was not just a ritual. It was a lifeline, a connection to Allah Almighty that could transform lives. He encouraged others to make dua, to surrender their worries and desires to Allah Almighty, and to trust in His infinite wisdom. As Amir's spiritual journey unfolded, he encountered yet another trial, one that would test his faith like never before. A sudden, unforeseen event struck his family. His father fell seriously ill, and despite all efforts, his condition worsened rapidly. The doctors had no explanation for his deterioration, and his family was consumed by fear and helplessness. Amir felt the weight of his family's distress. The thoughts of helplessness clouded his mind, and he felt his own faith tested. But he knew that this was a moment where his relationship with Allah Almighty could either break or grow stronger. Remembering the teachings of Imam Ali, alayhi salam, who had faced immense trials with patience and reliance on Allah Almighty, Amir turned to dua with renewed sincerity. He spent countless hours in prayer, asking Allah Almighty for healing and for His mercy upon his father. Each night, he performed Sajdah with deep humility, acknowledging his helplessness and seeking Allah Almighty's intervention. He recited the words of Imam Zain al-Abidin, alayhi salam, who had said, "O Allah, I ask you for relief in my trials, for you are the only one who can alleviate suffering." His faith was unwavering, and as days passed, a miraculous turn of events occurred. Amir's father, who had been on the verge of death, suddenly showed signs of improvement. His condition stabilized, and within a short time, he was fully recovered. Amir's heart swelled with gratitude as he realized that his sincere dua had been answered. He recognized that this was not just a recovery, but a manifestation of Allah Almighty's mercy and the power of prayer. In the days that followed, Amir reflected deeply on the profound lesson he had learned. His father's recovery had been a test of faith, not just for him, but for his entire family. They had seen firsthand the power of Allah Almighty's mercy and the importance of trusting in His plan, even when the outcome seemed uncertain. Amir understood that dua was not about demanding a specific outcome, but about surrendering to Allah Almighty's will with complete trust. It was about acknowledging that He knows what is best for His creation, even when we cannot understand the wisdom behind the trials. The words of Imam Ali, alayhi salam, resonated deeply within him. Do not grieve over what has passed, and do not rejoice over what is yet to come. Everything in this world is temporary, and only Allah Almighty's plan is everlasting. Amir had learned to place his full trust in Allah Almighty, knowing that every trial, every hardship, and every blessing was part of a greater divine plan. His faith had evolved from a mere practice to a way of life. His dua had become an ongoing dialogue with Allah Almighty, a constant reminder that He was with him in every moment. As Amir's life continued to unfold, he felt a strong desire to share the lessons he had learned with others. He realized that the power of dua was something that could transform lives, and he wanted to help others experience its profound impact. He began teaching his friends, family, and even strangers about the significance of making sincere supplications. He emphasized the importance of connecting with Allah Almighty through prayer, reminding them that it was not about the number of words spoken, but about the sincerity of the heart. Amir would often recite the supplications of the Ahl-e-Bait, alayhi salam, explaining their profound meanings and how these supplications could bring peace and comfort to one's heart. He would tell them, when you make dua, do not just ask for what you want. Ask for guidance, ask for wisdom, and ask for the strength to face whatever challenges come your way. Trust in Allah Almighty, for He is the best of planners. His message was simple yet powerful. Never underestimate the power of a single prayer. One sincere sajdah, one heartfelt dua, can change the course of your life. So, make dua with full faith and trust that Allah Almighty is always listening. Amir's journey was far from over. The lessons he had learned about dua, patience, and trust in Allah Almighty would continue to shape his life. His story became one of inspiration for those around him, a living testament to the power of faith in Allah Almighty's plan. As he continued his journey, Amir knew that his purpose was not just to seek Allah Almighty's mercy for himself, but to be a source of guidance and inspiration for others. He hoped that through his words and actions, others would come to understand the immense power of dua and the transformative effect it could have on their lives. He often reflected on the words of Imam Ali, alayhi salam, who had said, "The best of you are those who have the most complete faith and the most sincere in their worship of Allah Almighty." These are the ones who, when they ask for something, their supplications are never rejected. Amir knew that his faith was not just about asking for his own needs, but about connecting with Allah Almighty on a deeper level. It was about trusting that no matter what happened, Allah Almighty was always with him, guiding him, protecting him, and answering his prayers. As Amir continued to walk his path of faith, he understood that the power of dua was not a temporary fix, but a lifelong journey. Each prayer brought him closer to Allah Almighty. Each supplication deepened his trust, and each trial strengthened his resilience. His story was a reminder that no matter the circumstances, no matter how challenging the trials of life may seem, Allah Almighty's mercy is always within reach. Through sincere dua, we can find the strength to face any challenge, the patience to endure any trial, and the peace that comes from knowing that Allah Almighty is always listening, always guiding, and always answering. For Amir, the power of dua was not just a tool for seeking help in times of need. It was a way of life, a constant conversation with the Creator, and a reminder that no matter what happens, Allah Almighty's mercy is boundless, and His love for His creation is eternal.